Gryffindors are the most talented. In the
I
Sorcerer's
decided to do
Stone,
an
when Dumbledore awards
YouTube
Gryffindor
live.
last-minute points to hand them the house
I don't know if
cup,
this
would feel like
works,
pretty blatant
but
favoritism to the Slytherins, who
I
have
need to
been
take off
working
my
all
makeup.
year to win that cup and have been leading in points. And from this perspective, couldn't you
Still
start
don't
to
pay
get
attention
why
to the background.
Slytherins resent Gryffindors, who seem to keep getting handed success even though they don't really apply themselves in an intelligent way? You can even see the Slytherins' sense of unfairness in the starting premise of the story.
Harry's a baby with an extraordinary logical talent, was able to defeat the greatest wizard of all time.
Voldemort exerts exceptional effort to become
So to get rid of my eye makeup, I'm using the eye remover from Up and Up, the Target brand.
Slytherin's house element is water, and like liquids, Slytherins are slippery, fluid, and hard to pin down. In astrology, water signs are considered to be intuitive, emotional, and sensitive. Because they're so hyper-aware and sensitive, Slytherins are image conscious. They're extremely concerned with how they're perceived. The water element may also connect to potions, Snape's subject of choice.
I don't expect many of you to appreciate the subtle science and exact art of this potion making.
Potions is an understated art that's all about the slow simmering of carefully chosen ingredients.
I can tell you how to bottle and brew the oil and even the stopper in it.
Purposeful,
I don't know
patient,
if
and
this
precise
works, but
is classic Slytherin. Harry Potter may focus more on the negative associations, but green, silver, and water have a lot of positive connotations. Silver the metal is malleable and adaptive, and Slytherins are far more subtle in their thinking than straightforward Gryffindors. Green is associated with life, vitality, and nature, and Slytherins have astonishing potential for growth, rebirth, and renewal. Just as water can take different forms, Slytherins can change and transform, as we see in Snape,
He was the bravest man I've ever known.
and Draco,
I didn't tell him. You knew, wasn't it?
2, 3.
What did he say?
and even Narcissa when she lies to Voldemort that Harry is dead.
Dead.
Of all the houses, Slytherin is probably the one most closely linked to its house animal, the snake.
There's a reason for the Slytherin house is a serpent. Sounds like Slytherin was a plant animal.
Even the name sounds like the word slither, as in the snake slithered across
I
the
feel
grass.
really
In
awkward doing a
Western
live
literature
stream,
and
but
culture, snakes are associated with cunning, treachery, and deception. The serpent in Genesis tempts Eve to eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, leading to the fall. The serpent there represents Satan, while the griffin of Gryffindor's name has been associated with Christ. So the story immediately paints Gryffindor and Slytherin as good versus evil. One literally has a Christ symbol in its name, and the other's name sounds like the movement of the animal traditionally linked to the devil. And the Harry Potter story mostly reinforces the Western idea of the snake as devious and evil. Voldemort himself looks snake-like with his smooth, hairless head and slits for nostrils, and Salazar Slytherin's basilisk is a monstrous incarnation of the house's spirit, which is why only Voldemort can control it as heir to Slytherin. Voldemort's snake, Nagini, also embodies terrible violence. But there's also another snake we meet early on, at the zoo in the Sorcerer's Stone. Harry understands that this unaggressive animal is just mistreated.
He doesn't understand what it's like, lying there day after day, watching people pass their ugly faces in on you.
In fact, he feels a sense of kinship with this snake.
Do you miss your family? I see. That's me as well. I never knew my parents either.
So there's a way in which the snakes of Slytherin are misunderstood and villainized from the start. Outside of Western culture, there are a lot more positive associations with the snake. It's often been linked to sexual desire and fertility, the mysteries of reproduction. In ancient Egypt, the uraeus, or rearing cobra, was a symbol of royalty and power. That reminds us of Slytherin's legacy as a grand, important house. Egyptians also saw the snake as life-giving, just as Snape protects Harry for so many years.
Don't tell me about it.
keep growing.
Snakes shed their skin, and the Slytherins we know best reveal new sides to themselves, symbolically shedding their skin in an act of rebirth. So the snake is an animal of contradictions. It represents deadliness and vengeance, and life and renewal. Its venom can be poison or medicine. Ultimately, the snake is a symbol of duality, of both good and evil and their interconnectedness. And Slytherins have both darkness and the capacity for light inside of them. The Slytherin common room is in the Hogwarts dungeons, underground, just as Slytherins are symbolically hidden away. Their true nature is not immediately visible to the outside world. The room is partly under the lake, which puts Slytherins close to their element, water. The underwater location visualizes that Slytherins aren't afraid to face the deeper, darker truths of human nature. Some of them are interested in the dark arts. The darkness and greenish light make the common room feel a little eerie, not entirely comfortable, echoing how Slytherins keep people at a distance. The house ghost is the Bloody Baron, not the most welcoming character. In the books, we learn that he was in love with Helena Ravenclaw, but eventually stabbed her in rage. And when he realized what he'd done, he turned the knife on himself. So this tragic backstory captures a lot about who Slytherins are. They have intense feelings that they don't know how to express in a healthy way, and this can be a fatal flaw. But they often come to repent the error of their ways. In the books, the Bloody Baron chooses to wear chains to atone for his crime. The house name comes from Salazar Slytherin.
Honestly, I'm really bad at doing eyebrows.
The three of the founders coexisted quite harmoniously. One did not.
I guess it's her.
Salazar is a bastion, meaning old hall, so this connotes the impressive, long legacy of Slytherin. The Slytherins' fixation with their impressive past might help explain their problematic history with bigotry. Salazar himself thought Hogwarts should be for pure bloods only.
Salazar Slytherin wished to be more selective about the students admitted to Hogwarts. He believed magical learning should be kept within all magic families. In other words, pure bloods. Unable to sway the others.
In other words, pure bloods.
decided to leave the school.
And this bias lives on in later Slytherins.
So she's not.
The pureblood issue in Harry Potter is an obvious analogy for racism.
Her speciality was Muggle studies.
It is this village has been Muggles are not so different from us. She would, in her way, have us mate with her.
The very prejudiced Draco Malfoy has blonde, typically Aryan looks, so that creates a subconscious link between his racism against Muggleborns and the ethnic hatreds directed at non-whites in our world.
No half European is filthy Muggle.
And the hate-driven, tyrannical behaviors of Voldemort and Grindelwald make us think of Nazism or other totalitarian, genocidal regimes.
Your parents would be proud. Especially your filthy Muggle mother.
In a tweet, J.K. Rowling said, "Not all Slytherins think they're racially superior, but all those who do are Slytherins." If we look deeper, the racism problem within Slytherin reflects a larger insecurity and fear of change. Salazar Slytherin couldn't accept progress, and families like the Malfoys are afraid of losing their prominence and privilege. They're so preoccupied with the days when Voldemort was in power because that's when they were the most influential and relevant in their community. And through this portrait, Rowling is making a larger statement about where racism and bigotry come from, anxiety about the future, and the fear of losing one's place in the world. Ironically, the pure-blood-obsessed Voldemort is a half-blood himself, so his racism is driven by self-loathing and daddy issues. And perhaps Rowling is suggesting then that racism in general is often fueled by some form of self-doubt or self-hatred.
Sure. You didn't think I was going to keep my filthy Muggle father's name.
But this kind of behavior is generally learned. It's not that Slytherins are intrinsically bad, it's that many have been raised in a toxic environment. Draco was brought up to believe that he's better than others due to his blood. He's been taught to value wealth and image. He's also watched his family routinely abuse their house outside. So So of course, having grown up this way, he enters Hogwarts as a hateful boy. But as we watch Draco become conflicted about his parents' behavior and learn how Snape protected Harry, we see that Slytherins can overcome their backgrounds and conditioning. A corrupt cultural environment doesn't define their inner nature and potential.
Severus Snape was indeed a Death Eater, and prior to Lord Voldemort's downfall, turned spy for us at great personal risk. Today's no more a Death Eater than I am.
In our next video, we're going to offer up some arguments in defense of Slytherin. We're going to have a little fun sorting characters outside of Harry Potter into this house.
I'm not sure how I feel about this concealer,
If you like what
but
we
I
do and you
like
want to
it.
help us grow, one of the best things you can do is support us on Patreon.
We make special polls for our patrons where you can vote for a video you want us to make.
And right now we're giving away 3 free months of Movie, a really fantastic movie streaming service.
Love movie.
We're such fans. And we're giving that away to a limited number of patrons, so be one of the first to go check it out.
The link is right here.
Ooh, I'm jumping just for kids.
Everyone in the cardiac surgical department, please raise your hands. You're on fire. Any department who places billing above care will be terminated. We all feel like the system is too big to change. But guess what? We are the system, and we need to change.
I was scared. I forgot to set.
I'm gonna let you just help you. So let's help as many as we can.
Oh, no.
Pretty Woman? Pretty Woman is such a lie. Like, a prostitute wouldn't fall in love with you. She would just, like, steal your shit and sell it for coke.
Sometimes a heartwarming romance or romantic comedy is exactly what the doctor ordered. But what medicine is that spoonful of sugar-coated sentimentality actually pushing down our throats? When you take off those heart-shaped glasses, a great deal of movie romances and rom-coms can start to look downright creepy.
You're kidding me.
No wonder.
Do you do that a lot?
Just the past couple of months.
If we look back at some of the greatest romantic comedies in history, the screwball comedies of the 1930s like Bringing Up Baby and His Girl Friday, we find stories about gender equality.
Oh, poor darling Susan. She's in danger and she's helpless without me.
Yes, I wish you hadn't done that, Haley.
Done what?
Divorce me. Makes a fellow lose all faith in himself. Almost gives him a feeling he wasn't wanted.
Oh, now, look, Junior, that's what divorces are for.
Today's more self-conscious romantic stories revive this spirit by critiquing our lazy assumptions about love or the sexes.
You should know up front, this is not a love story.
I spent my whole life trying to avoid being alone because I was terrified.
But others struggle to deliver that happy ending of the romance or rom-com formula without arriving at a pretty traditional-looking picture of a happy couple. In spite of all this, there's a reason we keep going to the movies looking for love. Yale professor Mark Lapadula tells us why.
As film goers, we learn, certain things from the movies. We do try to emulate certain actors or certain moments. People will say things like, oh, it was so exciting, it was almost like I was in a movie. If you can have moments in your own life where you say, this was something, it was just so special, I bet a lot of that feeling was inspired that you're trying to go for by something you saw on screen at some point that really impacted on you. And you just said, I just wish someday I could meet a woman like that, or I wish I could be in a moment where I could have someone like that in my arms and I could kiss them in that way.
Now say you're a bird too.
You're a bird, I'm a bird.
But at their worst, romances and rom-coms can send us some messed up love lessons. On the standard romance movie diet many of us have consumed, it's no wonder we might emerge with weird, flawed ideas about love. For example, Ever since Cinderella, we've been watching beautiful women overcoming bad hair, schlumpy clothes, and a pair of glasses to get her man. Part of this taps into a long-standing male fantasy of being the woman's creator.
She's so deliciously low, so horribly dirty.
Write your name and number down.
Want to find another bill?
Just do it.
What the hell was that?
But that $5 bill makes its way back into my hands. I'll be able to call you. And when you hear my voice on the other end, then you'll believe it fake, won't you?
Many rom-coms and romances center on the assumption that we're meant to end up with someone. The existence of soulmates is essentially a starting premise of the whole genre. But if we're focusing on destiny, we're passively waiting for a preordained romantic happiness to be handed to us. There's at least a good chance this isn't how it works out in life.
It's a wonderful thought. The idea that all of life, that every single event is all part of some master plan designed to lead us to our universal soulmate. But if that's really true, then what's the point of living?
The basis of almost every romance or rom-com is people who are made for each other, pushing each other away over things that don't really matter. The romance is the resistance, the fight, the on-again, off-again that leads to the point where they actually get together.
Get over here.
And if a guy pushes you away, it's really because he cares so much and isn't ready yet for how much he loves you. All these portrayals may brainwash us into thinking that a healthy relationship should be full of constant fighting and commitment issues. Men are an elusive animal that wants sex and hates commitment.
Get out.
Absolutely.
Get out of here. Let's get out of here.
Okay. But true love apparently changes these gruff commitment-phobic players
I love you.
I'm sorry?
into great boyfriends.
Charity, no one. He got the notion into his head that if he restored the old house where they had come that night, Allie would find a way to come back to him.
The scene in Love Actually when Andy Lincoln's Mark shows up with his cue cards is now famous as a top romantic movie moment. But what really happens here? This guy has ruined his best friend's wedding video because he couldn't stop perving on the bride. Now he deceives that friend, makes Keira Knightley's character lie to her husband while he undresses her with his eyes, and shows her a picture of a rotting corpse. What if the husband had opened the door?
Hey, I'm not a stalker. I'm not a stalker, right? She's a friend of mine.
Spying on someone, hiring a private investigator to dig up their info, following them.
He's here.
These are not romantic things in real life. But in movies, this is all okay because of the hot person rule.
You have to admit he's ridiculously hot.
I'm sure if you are attracted to that sort of human, then
The hot type of human?
If a less hot person than Ryan Gosling wrote Allie a letter every day for a year and threatened to kill himself if she wouldn't go out with him, we'd probably call the police. In our real lives also, if we like someone, their crazy behaviors are endearing. But if they're not desirable, suddenly those same behaviors take on harsh judgment.
It's the Doppler-Dahmer theory. If both people are into each other, a big romantic gesture works. Like Lloyd Dobler holding up the boombox outside Diane Court's window and Say Anything. But if one person isn't into the other, the same gesture comes off serial killer crazy, or Dahmer.
I like you. You can't handle it. And guess what? Everything that I'm doing right now, if you liked me, you'd be so into it.
The rule that a hot person can do no wrong is so ironclad that movies even give us fantasies about semi-abusive relationships with a hot guy.
You're mine. All mine. I can never lose control with you.
And these fantasies also operate on the rich person rule. In many of these movies, there are different, far more lenient rules for rich people.
Oh, I should just mention that I have resigned. I'm now poor.
good.
When I say poor, I mean we may have to share a hookup with another family.
Movies often show women refusing offers only to be won over in the end, as if a certain kind of no really means try a few more times.
What are you doing? This is called mounting a frenzy.
But men don't like to be chased, we're told, and if a woman gets too grand gesture romantic, She's less Gosling or Love Actually guy and more Fatal Attraction or Crazy Ex-Girlfriend.
What? No, I'm not. She's the crazy ex-girlfriend. That's a sexist term. She's the crazy ex-girlfriend. Will you guys stop singing for just a second? She's so broken inside. The situation's a lot more nuanced than that.
Still, a subset of the hot person rule, adorable feminine cuteness overrules the woman chasing ban. Cuteness absolves the female lead of all guilt. If she's Meg Ryan, flying across the country to stare at a stranger she heard on the radio, or Sandra Bullock, lying to the family of a man in a coma, or Julia Roberts sabotaging her best friend's wedding, or Audrey Tautou finding creative ways to stalk a guy, we forgive everything. Romantic comedies and romances get called chick flicks, and the largely female audience maybe can see a tiny piece of ourselves magnified in the female lead's outlandish antics, even if we'd never go through with these excessively romantic behaviors.
I look so bad today.
The nice guy trope implies that if a man tries hard enough, he deserves to be with the woman even if she's given no signs that she's interested. Groundhog Day and 50 First Dates show us two nice guys manipulating women into loving them by taking advantage of a weird time loop or a girl with mental illness.
What is it?
I had waffles. They were delicious.
I like making little houses out of waffles.
You do?
That's my thing.
But Murray and Sandler, we're told, are good guys, so any bad things the good guy does are excused by his inherent trustworthiness.
We have sex and then you immediately turn into this huge dick.
Netflix's Love critiques this trope in Gus, who's the classic nice guy, but as the first season reveals, isn't really all that nice.
You pretend to be nice and that's worse.
What about you? You know, you're pretending to, like, be this, like, cool girl, you know, who doesn't follow the rules of how things go, but then we have sex, and then you immediately become like every other lame girl.
And this also brings up the cool girl trope.
Men always use that, don't they, as their defining compliment. She's a cool girl. Cool girl is hot. Cool girl is gay. Cool girl is fun. Cool girl never gets angry at her man.
Similar to the Manic Pixie Dream Girl, this idea of the cool, hot, one-of-a-guys dream girl, who's everything a boy imagines his perfect girl to be. There are so many movies in which the woman is the reward that it's hard for women not to feel they should model themselves into some kind of too-good-to-be-true prize for a man.
You're my best friend.
Many stories rely on this idea that we never realize we're madly in love with our best friend, but this never seems to happen in real life. We've been ignoring that nerdy friend because we're not attracted to them.
Yes, no, fuck no.
People perceive you as somewhat tempestuous. Heinous bitch is the term used most often.
10 Things I Hate About You, an update to Shakespeare's Taming of the Shrew, taught us that any independent, driven, or career woman must be tamed by the end of the romance. She can still be smart, but she needs to soften her edges and realize what really matters in life. People of medium attractiveness or non-white heritage are usually secondary characters in other people's romance. In most of these stories, true love stars hot white women who are improbably clumsy, so the audience will still find them relatable and not too perfect.
Where's she going? Don't.
It's also okay to leave someone at the altar. And if you really love someone, it's okay to break up their relationship, because the partner we have to get rid of is conveniently without a personality or a heart. My best friend's wedding actually makes fun of this assumption when she doesn't get the guy and proves a terrible friend for trying to ruin her best friend's romance.
You kissed him! At my parents' house! On my wedding day!
It's not love unless you make a big, public, dramatic declaration.
Horrible color choices, but I'm not gonna do it again.
Finally, and most importantly, the happy ending justifies the means. Romances forgive a mountain of elaborate lies and horrific manipulation, which are washed away and absolved by the jubilant happily ever after. Perhaps the best example of this is the sensationally insane Overboard. Uber-rich Lady Joanna falls from a yacht and gets amnesia, forgetting about the hard-working carpenter and single dad Dean Prophet she unfairly threw off her boat instead of paying him. To get revenge, Dean tricks her into believing she's his devoted wife and the mother of 4 badly behaved boys. The movie gets us on board by making Joanna an obnoxious cartoon of the Richie Rich and making it lots of fun as she struggles as the hopeless housewife. Actually, he should be in prison, and she's the victim of a traumatic kidnapping and an array of abusive tactics.
He could be some stranger off the street.
Well, he seems to like you, and he's a nice guy.
Good looking.
Wait.
But by the end, she loves him, so based on some circular logic, this is all meant to be. And we, the audience, forgive all too, because we've fallen in love with the couple. If it doesn't end happily for you, instead you become a crazy ex-girlfriend. Also, why is it that so many rom-coms use amnesia as a lighthearted plot device? Unless you're as adorable as a Ryan, as dreamy as a Gosling, as goofy as a Sandler, as enticing as Mr. Big, or as made for each other as Russell and Hahn, remember that the rest of us must live by a different set of romance rules if we want to stay out of jail.
With Hurricane Harvey, it was something we didn't take serious at first because he was rooted here. He didn't want to leave. We boarded the house before we left in the rain when it was actually coming in, and it makes him to leave.
So we came in and we saw, all the water damage that we had inside the house. We had a few items plugged in, I pulled that item out of the wall. Water came out of the water sockets, and I was just like, it's a lot. We went several places, and when they know you're out of home, then who are you? You're nobody. We don't need you, you need us right now. This exact same home that we're in right now.
I'm not liking how this is turning out, so I'm just gonna
almost $30,000
turn this live stream off, okay?
Mauricio.
Maybe I'll do another one.